So evening, and welcome to round 8 of the Last Cast Saloon League. We're at Browndown tonight. This venue is a bit limited because we can only fish here when the army aren't using it. They pop a red flag to tell you when they're using it. So it's a bit hit and miss. I've drawn a peg called the Mushroom, which if you watched my videos a few months ago, is exactly where I was pegged back in sort of April, May time. I can't complain because I won that one. Let's see how it is. The tide, we're fishing the tide up. We're stopping quite a long tide. I think the high tide's about 1 and we're finishing at 11. So we're fishing the tide up, and it's quite blowy. It's 20 miles an hour, gusting 30 tonight. Now that'll churn things up, might bring some fishing closer, but I was hoping for bream tonight, and for that I really want the clear water, which I'm not going to get. So on the menu this evening, well, I've pretty much got everything that was left over from Saturday. So I've got my maddies, but they're probably not the thing to be using tonight. I've got a nice pile of blow log. I've got more rag put away, but the rag is still in very good condition. Tonight though, I've got a mackerel. I'll show you why in a minute, and then I've got a few bits of squid. So I'm going to start off going for see if there are some black bream out there. Not the gilthead type bream that I had the other night. But there we are. Just a little piece of ragworm tipped off with a really tiny piece of mackerel. And that's how I'm going to start. I've got a big blow lug on the bottom hook. So that's a 3-hook Pompey loop rig. So if you've watched a few of my videos through the summer, you can't help but have noticed we haven't been catching many fish. And there's a couple of reasons for that. In the summer, certainly down here, I suspect a lot of places in the country, although there's a greater variety of species, there doesn't tend to be huge numbers of them. But also it's made a lot harder when you're fishing a match because you're limited to which beaches you can fish. And some of the beaches that you might like to fish in a match have got holiday makers on and people sunbathing and all that sort of thing. And down here, it's a nice night, they'll still be on the beach at 10, 11 o'clock at night. So we're limited to the beaches that we fish by other beach users, and also limited by the fact you've got to find a beach that can fit 30 people on it and that it's fairly even for all the people on the beach. So if it wasn't a match tonight and I was going to go fishing, I wouldn't be here, and neither would most of the other people. You find those little spots, those little nooks and crannies where you know there's a bit of a feature, where you know there's going to be a few fish, and you just can't fish those locations in matches, not peg matches anyway. But we'll still give it a go. The water's looking very coloured, which is not what I wanted for the black bream. It's It looks a bit more bassy, but I'm not sure I'm brave enough. And I've got a big blow lug on the bottom hook, which if a bass finds that, it'll take it. But if it wasn't a match, I'd certainly close to the high tide, I'd be tempted to put a big bait close in and see if we can find a bass. Well, that's not bad for first cast. You just call it 20 centimetres, say measuring it?
Yeah, okay.
The tail. So unfortunately, that was not my conger first cast. That was Les to my right at 93 centimetres. Very nice fish, particularly this early in the match. Other than that, I haven't seen anything caught, and I think we are going to struggle tonight because there's an awful lot of weed. First cast, I had absolutely loads of weed. Everybody else has got lots of weed. Some people are being sort of dragged by the weed and tied down and getting tangled up with the people next to them. I've dropped a bit short. I'm not sure that's going to really help. I'm not sure that's where the fish are going to be. But it's better than spending half your night trying to get weed off your line. So that bright orange dot you can see just past my rod rest, there it is. That's the moon, and apparently the reason it's such a funny colour is because there's some forest fires. and that colour's brought on by the smoke particles that are in the air. So we're nearly 2 hours in, and other than Leslie's conger, I haven't seen anything else caught at all. The weed's a bit of a nightmare. It's difficult to film because I'm having to do 10-minute casts because otherwise there's too much weed on there. And by the time I've taken the weed off, baited up the next rig, it's virtually time to cast back out again. You know, if this was a pleasure session, I'd probably think there's no pleasure in this, and I'll go home. But it's a match. You've got to do something. So looking at the weather now, it's still quite windy and there's a bit of surf running. It's looking a bit bassy. So I'm not really geared up for that, but I've got a bigger hook now on the bottom of my Pompey Loop rig, still keeping the 2 small hooks at the top because I just don't know what's around you. You're really hoping for anything. But I'm putting a bigger bait on the bottom, either a couple of big lugworm, bits of mackerel, or half a squid, and we'll see. I would have thought there should be some bass around here somewhere. Probably not in front of me. Right, you want to measure me and sign me in? $57, $58.
I'm trying to stretch it to 21.
Or should we just call it 20, shall we?
20 it is indeed.
I think if I hold it out in front of me, well, it's a bass. It's not quite the thing I was after, but it is a bass. So it's 10 o'clock now, only 1 hour to go, but at least I'm on the card. Yeah, I know that bass wasn't exactly what I was looking for, but it's a fish. I'm on the card. The only other fish I've heard of is still that conger by Les. So at least I'm not blanking, and I caught what I was aiming for, even if it was small. So when you are suffering from a lot of weed, it impacts on you in 2 ways. So on Saturday, when I was at Hillhead Cliffs, the weed was on the bottom, and it was getting on the rig, it was getting on the hooks, it was covering the bait. And the only thing you can do about that is to shorten the duration of your casts. That's about it. Tonight, that's not actually happening. The rigs are coming in and the hooks are pretty clean. The problem tonight is there's a lot of weed high up in the water, which is getting on the main line. It's then collecting on the leader knot. Your rod starts to bend over, and it's a real pain. Bring it in, but at least it's not covering up the bait. So what can you do about that? Well, again, you could shorten your casts. That is obviously going to help. Less time for the weed to get on there, but also keeping your rod tip high. You know, most rod rests have got a little cup on them to put the butt of your rod in, and you can lift that up the rod stand and keep that rod tip very high. And the less line you've got in the water, the less you'll pick up that weed.
Card back for the morning, mate. Right.
Third, I'll do this slightly different tonight because of how it's fallen. So third place tonight, Glenn Pellet with 88 total length. Glenn?
Thank you. Well on,
mate. Second place tonight, and longest fish.
Oh, good.
So total length. That was just one fish, was it? So total length of 93 and longest fish of 93. Les?
Well on, mate.
Charlie! And longest fish, well done, Les.
Thank you.
Well done, mate. First place tonight. A
Bleep.
total of 137. Dave Ellis.
Well done, Dave.
Well done, mate.
Right, see you
Gents,
chaps
thank you very much.
Hey, I'll see you later.
Well done for
See you
putting
later,
up all
mate.
that
Take
bloody
care,
bread.
bud. Oh, you made it in the end.